Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. Again, I'm Crystal Wallace, Senior Vice President of Membership and Chapter Relations at CAI, and this is the Chapter President's Sharing Session. Just as a little introduction, when you are on the call, if you wouldn't mind putting yourself on mute unless you wish to speak, and then you may unmute yourself. This will just help us have less feedback on the line as we're talking today. And as I mentioned previously, if you can make sure you put your chapter name in your box on the screen, that would be helpful. And this is an opportunity to share ideas as we've done in the past. You're welcome to speak up at any time, and if you prefer, you can also use the chat box to add any questions or comments, and Kelly Schild will be helping to make sure that we get those questions answered throughout the session. We are recording this session, and we will be sharing it for everybody to use afterwards and for those that are unable to attend today. Okay, so I had sent out a message to ask people what they wanted to talk about today, and it was overwhelmingly financial planning and what does 2021 look like? This is lasting longer than we expected. How do we plan for this? So the first step in that is really the financial planning aspect of it. When we've discussed this in the past, many people have said, oh, we're good. We know we're good for the next few months. And now I think people are starting to think about, oh no, we may be having virtual events for quite some time, and we're not sure what this looks like. So I'd like to hear from anybody on the call that has talked with their board or their executive director perhaps about how you're looking at your financials moving forward through this time to make sure that you're able to cover expenses and remain financially strong.
This is Tony Raffel speaking from Seattle.
Hi, Tony.
Hi, Crystal. Sorry I couldn't make the last get together.
We're glad to have you here today.
You know, the year's not out yet, that's for sure, but kind of guardedly hopeful based on talking with our chapter executive director on Monday that we bill for sponsorship, which is a huge part of our revenue each year, and we bill for it on a quarterly basis, and people are paying their quarterly payments. They're not, at least so far, they have not been asking for changes, refunds, or anything else. So we're guardedly hopeful that that revenue at least is going to continue to come in.
Okay. That's great. Has anyone done any kind of scenario planning in regards to financials, like kind of looking at your best case, probably what you budgeted, then looking at the worst case if you didn't have sponsorship income or membership revenue, and then kind of something in between? Oh, Ariel raised her hand. Ariel, would you unmute yourself and talk to us a little bit about what your chapter has been doing?
Sure. So we immediately, as this started in March, our executive director, Jamie Barnhart, sat down with the staff and started planning what the next quarter would look like, and now we're into the rest of the year, and the Washington Metro chapter board meeting was on Monday, and we're beginning the budget process for next year. But as part of that, we're already looking at areas that we can tighten our belt, being flexible in other areas that where it might be necessary, and we have a lot of staff just making sure that we're looking at what each staff member does and a plan for especially if we can't reopen our chapter office or if we simply just don't have enough resources into the future. These are difficult conversations, but one that need to happen sooner than later. and frankly, we could be leaving some of these, or they could fall to the next chapter president.
That's a really good point, Ariel, about the tough conversations, and they are tough conversations to have. And I'm sure not only in the chapter, in your own, organizations, whether it be a community or a business, you're having those as well. But the sooner we have those conversations, the better we can plan for them, and make concessions. So, we can keep what's most important. Any others want to talk about their process? I'd love to hear, a little bit more about some of those tough decisions and kind of how you've said, whether it be staff or, canceling your largest event or transforming your largest event, or, what kind of big conversations are you and your boards having to make sure that you're making the best decision for the organization?
Crystal, if I might.
Yes, please, Mike.
This is Mike Crew from the Atlanta chapter, or Georgia chapter, technically. A couple of things. We had our board meeting last week and charged our treasurer with the responsibility for developing some worst case financial scenarios through the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So and financially, we're not in trouble for the year. We have adequate reserve funds. But we've lost all of our events so far this year. And our big event is our golf tournament in October, which nets us a pretty sizable profit. And it can't happen the way it is now. I mean, with the way the rules are, it can't happen. We play on a 27-hole golf course, and it's not even feasible to walk that. So we're trying to figure out, we've charged our golf committee with figuring out how we can substantially reduce the number of attendees, cut the sponsorship fees tremendously, and still manage to have an event that at least some people can participate in at some level. So we're trying to salvage that. Our education programs have gone online, virtual online, so we're not holding face-to-face classes anymore.
Okay.
But my concern is more about next year.
Yeah.
We get a tremendous amount of money from what we call our precious metal sponsors, and they're not getting anything this year. They
Just
paid a lot
Mike,
of money.
can I interrupt for just one second to make sure we're all on the same page? I know what you're talking about, but for everybody else, these would be your annual sponsorship programs, correct, Mike?
Right.
Okay.
We have platinum, gold, and silver sponsors, and the business partners and management companies are the ones who obviously purchase those, and they get some kind of benefits like luncheon tickets, preferred slots at our education seminar, golf slots, attendance at all the social events, and they're getting nothing this year. They're really getting slammed, or they're getting very little. We're trying to add some value that we can, and so I'm more worried about next year. I'd like to know what the other presidents are doing about next year's revenue stream, because kind of hard to go out and sell something a second time when it didn't deliver on the first year. So that's my big concern.
Crystal?
I don't have an answer, I might add. We have
Yes.
not figured that out yet.
Yes. I don't know that any of us have, and that's why this conversation is so important. So Mike Trademan, was that you that spoke up?
Yeah, that was in the Coachella Valley. We're really not thinking about next year, Mike, very much. We're trying to get through this year. We've delayed almost all of our events to the fall, which is going to make this fall very, very busy, bowling and golf and everything else. We've had some education events. We haven't had a charge for them because the sponsors have come through, and based on the call last month, Crystal, we started using the advertisements during the education sessions that somebody came up with last month, and that has worked really well. Our sponsors had some very professional 30-second ads during the education session, so we've been able to have the sessions without charging. We're very concerned about the P&L, and if we don't have some of the big events, we'll have to make some cost savings adjustments. We've already eliminated a part-time employee that we had. We just eliminated that just by fear, and nobody's in the office. We are opening up our office, though, probably next week with limited, with a whole bunch of changes, including cleaning and everything else. But as far as the finances, we're holding our breath that we can hold the fall events. Now, if we don't hold the fall events, it's kind of hard to have a virtual golf outing. But if we don't have the fall events, the chapter is going to be in trouble. And there aren't a lot of places to cut costs. Most of our costs are, there whether we are in the office or not. The office expense, the personnel, really difficult to come up with cost savings.
Okay, I want to ask you guys a question, and Emily, can you launch the poll? We're gonna use the polling feature in Zoom about reserves. Both Mike Crew and Mike Trademan have mentioned reserves, so we're curious. We're trying to understand the financial position of the chapters, and so this is a great anonymous way to tell us if your chapters have reserves and how much you have in reserves. We want to be able to support you all in planning appropriately moving forward. So if you just take a few minutes to answer those. Almost everybody has done that. Anybody else, while people are finishing up with the polling, want to talk a little bit about the financial planning process? And even if you haven't done it, even if you have questions on how to do it, speak up now. This is a great think tank filled with a lot of people that have experience in the chapter. And so, please, feel free to ask questions or talk about some of those tough decisions you may be having.
Crystal?
Yes, sir. Hi, Ed.
How you doing?
I'm well, and yourself?
I'm well too. One of the things that we did, and Michigan was one of the more restricted states in terms of our governor's response to the virus problem, and I didn't appreciate the discrepancy until the previous president's meeting, where there was some discussion, and that was quite helpful to understand. People were saying, well, there was no guidance. Here, the complaint was too much guidance.
Sure.
People were criticizing the governor, and our governor took a strong stand and implemented strong restrictions right out the gate. So we knew that we were dealing with a different situation that required adaptations. The first thing that we really did as a board was to recognize that we had to revise the strategic plan for this year.
Yes.
And in that revision, we recognized the limitations of what we had to deal with and felt that, number one, we snuck our annual conference in March just under the wire. Had it been a week later, we probably would have had to cancel. So we counted our blessings there. And in our revision regarding the strategic plan for the year, we identified the annual golf outing as being a key event, and that we would act to preserve that outing in whatever fashion we could. And I believe that we're going to make that happen. The restrictions are we just had another fresh round of relaxation this week, and we think by July 1st, unless there's a radical change in the circumstances here regarding infections, I think we're looking pretty good. So we figured that from a strategic viewpoint, if we could have those two main events as the cornerstone for this year, we would be okay, and we would declare it a success. So we had goals that we identified, new goals, revised goals, and are working a plan.
Right.
What we did in addition to that was really change the delivery of educational services to the Michigan community and stepped up the webinars. I mean, we were really stepped it up. We were going weekly. Now we're bi-weekly. That recognizing that would be an important way to maintain the presence during these hard times. And I think it's been very helpful. We've had good participation. We've had webinars that we did not charge for, and we've had webinars that we have charged for with good success. It makes me feel kind of good about where we are as a chapter. I think that, you know, we don't hear any alarm bells here. Thank goodness.
Great. Well, it sounds like you've definitely had a lot of strategic discussions, and that's a great example for others that may be looking to do that as well. I think you all can see on the screen the poll results, and I'm so happy to see that 90% of you have reserves. That's amazing. And you know, even many of you have a nice amount, knowing what most of the chapter budgets are. So that's good. I'm glad to see that. I hope nobody has to dip in too far, but it's nice to know you have a savings account in place, if you will. Thank you all for participating in that. We appreciate it. So continuing on with 2021, you know, our mission hasn't changed at all, right? We're still here to build better communities, and we want people to have, you know, successful operations of their communities, successful business opportunities, and strong management skills. So knowing that moving forward, at least in some capacity, there's probably going to be an expectation for things to be a little bit different. So how do we plan for that for 2021? How do we stay relevant? How do we stay safe? How do we give our members the value that they expect and deserve?
We focus, Crystal, on the idea of making sure that we take advantage of the vast array of persons with various expertises that can contribute, and to keep that expertise out in front of the membership, and also looking to attract new membership during this time. We see it as a time for growth because the need for education, the need for guidance is much more pronounced now. So this is a time, rather than you know, seeing this as a time for retreating, this is a time of increased relevance. We have that, and if we can get that message out there and keep it out there, I think that we'll be stronger because of that.
I'd like to add one of the things the Long Island chapter has been trying to focus on is membership growth.
Mm-hmm.
By a show of hand, with the people on video here, how many, in regards to your state or your area, are property managers required to be licensed? So in Long Island, they're not required to be licensed, or certified. So we have about 10% of the entire market of condos on Long Island as members. And one of the challenges we have is trying to find additional members, or providing enough value to those members to have them join. During COVID-19, we had put on a series of webinars and basically opened up to anybody within the condo co-op community that's been within our database. And we found that about a third of those people have joined those educational webinars that we put on. And I have the membership committee working diligently to reach out to those members and to see if we can bring forth enough value for them to want to join. In addition to that, we've also ran a MAC sponsorship, or Membership Action Committee sponsorship, where vendors such as myself have basically put up the money to allow us to offer membership at a either somewhat discounted, deeply discounted, or free rate to at least allow people to join now. And then while we know we provide a tremendous amount of value, especially during times like this, where we know this isn't going to be the last time we're dealing with a pandemic, hopefully moving forward we'll do so. One of the challenges that we have is trying to reach out to members to allow our membership rate, base to grow. as I believe Mike was saying earlier, when you have your sponsors, your sponsors are going to support you as long as obviously they're finding value. And the value that they're going to find is those business opportunities, those relationships within this, niche, if you would. I've reached out to CAI National multiple times to try to see if there's any type of co-op marketing we could do in a digital world, see what they're doing in the digital world, see if we can have some help doing any type of print, radio, anything digital to try to accomplish that, to make sure that we are able to, continue to grow, to obtain the proper revenue to keep our membership nice and healthy. So with all that being said, I'm curious what the other chapters are doing in regards to making sure that they're able to stay relevant, create value, continue to deliver value while obtaining membership in such a crazy pandemic.
So this is Nick in Basin. For the
California for those East Coasters.
Yeah, sorry, California, San Francisco Bay Area. So you brought up licensing. So we don't have mandatory licensing in California, but one of the things we realized is that if managers get their CMCA, they're likely to be members of our chapter and stay members of the chapter for as long as they're in the industry. So we do something called the CMCA Challenge. We used to do an in-person study session, followed by the paper and pencil test. And then if they pass the test, we would basically award them a scholarship, which was a full refund of the test fee. So it was like a $350 test fee, and we would just give them a scholarship, if they pass the test. We're now moving that all online. So we're saying, here's the CAMICB's website. They've got now an online study session. Take the study session, go to a testing center, take the test. If you pass it, come to us. We'll give you a refund or a scholarship to reimburse you for the fee. And what we're going to get in their membership dollars over the years is going to more than make up for it, is our thing.
Not only the membership dollars, Nick, I love that program, by the way. Not only the membership dollars, but the participation in events and luncheons, et cetera. So, and hopefully involvement in committees and whatnot. So I think that's a great way to engage managers. Other ways chapters are creating value, especially given the changes we're dealing with now?
Crystal?
Yes.
This is Hope Carmichael from
Hi,
the
Hope.
North Carolina chapter. I'm sorry I'm having to join by phone today, so I couldn't raise my hand. But
we're happy to have you.
I just wanted to say one unique thing that we are finding is that business partners and even management companies that historically have seen each other as competitors are seeing themselves find common challenges as a way to come together in this environment that no one's experienced before. And as a chapter, we observe that. Let me just give you an example. We recently had our first paid webinar with swimming pools opening up in North Carolina, and we sold out at 500 registrants, and it was the 3 platinum pool management company sponsors in the state who were the presenters, and I, as chapter president, narrated or moderated that. But these people had never come together to share challenges and talk through problems they were having in their business because they saw each other only as competitors. And CAI is what they have in common. And so we've started to create what we're calling huddles for business partners in like industries to come together and brainstorm and have sessions on various issues for even management companies who very much see each other as competitors to come together, and certainly executives, CEOs of management companies we have had a strategic initiative for quite some time to try, and we understand that everything flows from the CEO of the management company. So we really want to create value for those management company executives. And we're seeing a lot of positive reaction to that. And that is a way we've built in value for the sponsors. I've heard people talk about, we haven't been able to give our sponsors back what they typically see as value, but these huddles have been a value that they perceive that we've been able to give them. So I just share that with the group.
I love the word huddle. I think I like that. It's something different than I haven't heard in this time. Thank you, Hope, for sharing. I appreciate that.
Crystal, can I comment on that?
Of course. Go ahead, Ed.
Living in Michigan. Yeah, I'm glad Hope brought that up because, you know, that's something that we in Michigan really were confronted with when we had this big push to, you know, get out and emphasize the contacts. We were getting, you know, the kind of blowback like, you know, property managers didn't want to share their ideas. There was this reluctance to get out, say, in a webinar and talk about their practices. But it's a time of change. And I think that change has been a catalyst for us to have people look at that differently. So now we are having people huddle up, if you will, Hope, and share more ideas about how their operation works, how they are managing their client group if they're property managers. And I think that it's been a great benefit. But again, the COVID crisis has been a great catalyst for change. And we need to see that, you know, this is a chance for change. Things won't be the same. So let's do it.
Both Ed and Hope, you make really good points about having to make sure you're scanning the environment. So, and finding those little nuggets of how you can capitalize on, you know, people having conversations that didn't in the past, or, you know, in need of a business partner to get their message out, and how we can do that, because we definitely have to look differently at how we present information and share resources with our members. Good stuff, guys. Eric Clemente has from Long Island has a question in the chat here about drawing membership in, and the part I want to focus on is managers encouraging their communities to join CAI. In the past, and this is my personal thought, is in the past, we've heard from a lot of chapters that managers are sometimes hesitant, as Ed was just talking about, to share that information. And I'm curious if there's been a change or what you're seeing now to get communities involved in CAI. And I see there's a couple of hands up and I can't see who they are. Kelly, can you help me out there?
Crystal, one quick comment.
Sure.
We've actually written a little dialogue that community managers can give at their HOA board meetings to encourage the board of directors to become members. And we've given it to the management companies, and they've distributed it to all their community managers, so that to try to encourage the boards to join the, you know, the reduced price of CAI membership for boards. So we've actually—
Would you mind sharing that with us? Do you mind either you or Cal sending that over? I'd love to share that with the other chapters if you wouldn't mind allowing them to use that as a template. That'd be great. Ariel, you have your hand up. Ariel, are you muted?
I am, but I don't have my hand up. Maybe that was from earlier.
Oh, then maybe that was from earlier. Okay, then. Okay, do you have anything you want to add? No, okay. Okay, Mike Crew. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to the idea of adding value, if I can. Is that all right?
Sure.
Adding value for sponsors. So our chapter CED walks on water. She's amazing. She really is. So she and her assistant came up with this idea to have these mini webinars about specific COVID-19 topics. And she has set up 5 of them. They're 1 hour. They're every Tuesday and Thursday for the next 5 weeks. Our platinum sponsors were invited to select one of the 5 topics and speak at them. And I think we have 3 empty slots maybe out of the 20 plus opportunities to speak. So our platinum sponsors jumped on it, and that's going to give them a chance to be in front of a bunch of managers during a webinar as a panel.
Yeah, that's a great way to do
And
it.
obviously we're doing that for, there's no sponsorship fee. We're trying to give back to the business partners.
Yeah, as part of what they have already committed to the chapter. That's great. I want to ask you guys about advertising. I was talking to a smaller chapter this morning about revenue, and we started talking about advertising, whether it be through, newsletters or electronic means or websites. What are you guys seeing there? Are people interested in doing that? Have you seen a pickup in it? Sponsored content, perhaps? Video?
Crystal,
No.
we have a monthly magazine
Uh-huh.
called Quorum, as you know, and the board decided to put a 13th edition out because it's a good moneymaker. This one was 56 pages that just came out this week.
Wow, it's
And
impressive.
it's full of ads that we get revenue. I can send copies to anybody that wants it. Just let me know or let Crystal know. She can get it to me. And we have not seen any drop off in advertising. But one of the things that we've done is, I mentioned last month at the call, was we've gone away from printed copy for the most part, gone to digital copy. And the digital copy enables us to have links to all the advertisers and to all the COVID-19 resources for our readers.
Uh-huh.
So we've been able to really get a lot of good play on that and good good revenue on that as well.
It's great. Are others experiencing the same thing with advertising? I know I've seen several chapters move to a digital newsletter or magazine in the last few months. 1, because it's less expensive. 2, because if we're mailing to people at their offices, they may not be getting them. So good for everybody there. Okay. All right, so I want to ask you guys another question. Emily, do we have that second poll set up? Do you know? If not, that's okay. We can always just, oh, we do. Okay. Okay, we just launched another poll. We were talking about in-person events previously and when those come back, and there's anything from June till when there's a vaccine. And everything in between. So I thought it'd be interesting just to take a poll. So I want you all to see, and obviously we understand a lot of it's based on state orders and whatnot and the makeup of your membership, but let's just see how this turns out. So take a minute to vote on when you think you're gonna be coming back with in-person events. Any comments about the conversations you've had on that? If it's worth it, if it's not worth it, if you can't wait till that happens?
Yeah, Crystal, it occurred to me that an interesting poll would be, when do you know you're not going to have events?
Oh, yes.
That's the way our board is approaching it. Every
Yeah.
month we look down the calendar and go, cross that one off. It's too soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yes.
we're looking at outside events. Like we are going to try to hold our golf tournament at the end of July at this point. Feeling like we can do that a little easier than a conference or a luncheon or something like that. So we're outdoor being a little bit different than our regularly scheduled education. We've kept that. We haven't made decisions there.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share the results with you. And Alicia, that we've been hearing that too. A lot of like summer picnics or, summer events that are outside seem to be more likely at this point. Okay, so the end of the fourth quarter of the year seems to be where people are looking, but almost right behind is we're not sure, and I think that's where I sit, frankly. And it obviously really depends on where you're at as well. Another thing I wanted to thank you all for participating in that. We
Hey, Crystal, it's
appreciate it.
Vishnu.
Hi, Vishnu.
A few things. One, we've been having obviously conversations like everybody has, and we made the decision that we're going to start with, we have a monthly breakfast the last Tuesday of every month. So we made the commitment that we're going to try the end of June as our first time back. The facility that we use is a country club, and they have the ability to hold 200 people in their breakfast dining area where we would normally be. So what we're working with them on is we're looking at 5 people per table. Their tables hold 10 people, and space them out, limiting it to the first 50 people that register and doing a continuing education. We're going to go from our standard buffet to a plated breakfast. And we're just going to, we just made the commitment to just get started because something has to get started. We can't just continue, everybody hiding out in their own little silo. We've gone into, I think, phase 1. I think we may be even up to phase 2 now. We're in Fort Lauderdale for everybody's benefit. We're Southeast Florida. So we cover Miami, we cover Fort Lauderdale and the Keys. So primarily Fort Lauderdale, we're going to have a breakfast to kick off at the end. Our golf tournament, we moved from April back to October, and we're still planning on having it in October. Barring anything else coming up, but we've already worked with the golf course, and we're committed to having it then. The next event we have a Keys event, which is our annual Keys event, which is a education, and we normally had it last year. We had it for half a day. This year we're looking to make it a full day. We had 2 meeting rooms before. We're going to cancel the 2 meeting rooms and just have 1 large meeting room, space everybody that we can. They're again limited to about 50 people, I think is about half of what the room would hold, and try to have a day-long educational event there. So, there again, we're gauging the business partner response and commitment to this. Mm-hmm. We're gauging what the manager's response and commitment to this, as well as the homeowner leader. What we've gotten right now is we've got a lot of pent-up demand for this stuff. And so we think it's going to go well, but there again, we're committed as a board and a chapter that we're just going to take it 1 month at a time. If this works, great. If there's not a lot of response, then we'll cancel it, and then we'll try again next month. But we're not making any long-term plans. We're simply going to start this road back because we're in Broward County. I think the restaurants are now at 50%. So you're allowed to be open. You're allowed to have 50% of it occupied. You have to rope off every other table, etc. And you follow your protocols. So we're going to follow all the same protocols that they're going to give us and continue forward. And just to back up on a comment that was made earlier, or the question that was made earlier, in our chapter for value, recognizing that the way our sponsorship works for the year, a big part of our funding is 2 major events, which is golf tournament is one. And the other thing is the chapter sponsorships are huge, and we roll in the magazine advertisement into that. So we've actually increased our magazines from 4 times a year, and we've actually gone to 6 times this year. So we're doing a magazine every other month just to give greater visibility and payback to the chapter sponsors. And the other thing is we're hosting a weekly webinar, and we're allowing the platinum, the diamond, and the gold sponsors first crack at it at no additional charge. And we've been getting anywhere around about 100, 150. Our chapter is 500 in total size membership. So we're getting about 100, 150. We're getting more on these than we would normally get on in-person events. So it's been very, very good so far. And we've been doing this about almost 2 months now.
Great. Please, any of you that have events coming up this summer, whether they're in a hotel like Vishnu was speaking about, or a golf outing or whatever, please let us know how those go, because we're just trying to gauge how things are moving across the country, and share that information. So that's helpful. I know we don't have anybody on the call from Houston. They have a board meeting right at the same time, but they did do a survey a couple weeks ago asking their members, like, well, how comfortable are you coming back? How long do you want us to have virtual education? That kind of stuff. So I encourage you to engage with both your members and your sponsors and ask them those kind of questions, so you can get, you know, a stronger understanding of what's important. I definitely understand, you know, like the approach of the Southeast chapter, Vishnu's chapter, and let's test the water and see. At some point, we're all going to have to do that, and see. And there's no right time. It's what feels right for your chapter and your members. So keep that in mind. I wanted to ask too, there's been some conversation, and we've talked a little bit amongst CAI staff. Since we're doing a lot of virtual in particular right now, does it make sense for chapters in various areas to join together to do some of that education, to make it bigger, better, you know, statewide type stuff? I know there's a few states that have statewide events generally, but they've been canceled because of this. And so I'm just curious if any of you have had discussions about holding something with a neighboring chapter or perhaps statewide. Anyone?
Yeah, Crystal, in California, we had the Day at the Capitol canceled in Sacramento. That was a all 8-chapter event.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a legal symposium in Orange County, and I understand that's been moved I think that's moved to virtual.
It's in talks. I don't know that it's not totally confirmed yet, but yes, it's in talks to move that to virtual with all. Yes.
So other than that, everything has been chapter by chapter.
Okay. Ariel or Anita, I think you two are the two that are on from Virginia. I know that the Virginia Leadership Retreat was canceled. Have you all talked about doing anything as a group?
Not yet. And that was a really tough decision to make because it affects all of the chapters in Virginia. But you know, we were concerned about you know, the potential liability, you know, regarding not having a successful event. And of course, the VLR committee, they put so much time and attention into it, and so we wanted to make sure that it's as successful as possible. But I don't think we've gotten to any other opportunities right now to kind of make up for that.
Any other joint ventures going on out there? Any discussions about that possibility? Okay, how are we doing on time here? We're at almost 3:15 Eastern time. Are there other areas that you all wanna talk about or go back to? Don't be shy.
This is Tony speaking from Seattle. You know, one thought that that I had and have proposed to our chapter executive director and communications committee is devoting an issue to Black Voices Matter and trying to reach out to the Black members of our chapter in particular to speak out about their experiences in all sectors of the industry, whether it's in management, as a business partner, as a homeowner or board member, and trying to solicit people to speak on that and in the form of a magazine issue devoted to that, and possibly other venues as well. But that's one thing unrelated to COVID planning. This is obviously a different issue, but that's something that I really hope we can do and feature voices of color from our chapter in the near future.
A very relevant conversation, Tony. I will tell you all that our staff team has been working on a statement, CAI statement that I believe will be published soon, and we'll certainly share that with the chapters. Any other chapters having conversation about this important topic? I see Ariel's head shaking.
Yeah, that's something that we're actually, our executive committee is going to be discussing that today. I understand that something is possibly in the works from national,
Yes.
and we'd like to make sure that it aligns with what is being put out.
Okay. Thanks for bringing that up, Tony. An important thing for people to think about. Other challenges, ideas, food for thought?
Crystal, I'll share. I know there's a press release going out, and I don't know if it's gone out yet nationally, but at least locally it has, that we've launched in Colorado, Rocky Mountain chapter, we've launched our community manager apprenticeship program. That's just a 2-year program in conjunction with a community college, where we've got 15 management companies that are participating, hiring apprentices. That process is just getting started right now, but it is a national Department of Labor official apprenticeship. And as part of that, we are going to have a Department of Labor designation now for community management, separate from property management. So it is something that this cohort will be the pilot program, and we work with CAI National, we're working with a couple of local job agencies, and then this very forward-thinking community college in our area, and are hoping that this will be able to move nationally. But it's been, the fact that we've gotten this off the ground through COVID is pretty amazing, and we're all really excited about it. But they'll end up in a 2-year program, coming out with the CMCA and AMS designation. These management companies will have new managers and new people into the industry, and we have a huge interest in just finding out about this and about the industry. So we're excited, and I would love for you all to kind of watch how that goes, and we're going to put out some information so that we know when we're ready to broaden that to potentially other parts of the country.
Thanks so much for bringing that up, Alicia. Yeah, that's a very exciting program. We've had a few other states and localities have programming related to community management, but this is the first 2-year program. And yes, we'll be watching you closely to see if we can, use that in other areas as well. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're super excited.
And super proud of you for doing it during COVID. That's huge props to you all for that.
Yeah, we could have very easily said forget it, but we're looking forward, and there's so many people needing jobs that the interest is just phenomenal. So they're going to have great people to choose from.
That's awesome. Good for you. Good for you.
Crystal, Tony again. Something this point wasn't mentioned before, but other chapters may be doing the same. We have a number of large, our 3 largest educational events. We have Law Day, which is almost a full day. We have Made for Managers Day, the same, and then we have CA Day, which is our flagship event. As to the first 2, we made the decision to move those to a later date and go virtual for both of them. But something we're doing, and I don't think that differs much from what other chapters are doing, but we're splitting these events into multiple days, because otherwise, having 3 concurrent sessions over a period of, say, 7 hours with breaks in between, with trade show in between, that doesn't work in a virtual setting. So we're making it into smaller pieces, going to make it available to people to watch on demand as those segments are recorded. So we're trying to make sure that content is available to more people and more conveniently available. The only in-person event that we're going to try to hold, and we'll report back on the experiment, but that's our golf tournament in July. We're doing away with the dinner and the cocktail hour at the end, unfortunately, but the golfing itself can go forward. So, hopefully it'll still be a nice social event to do that. The big one, CA Day, which is scheduled in October, that one, I think our board would really like to go virtual on that as well and manage it that way, given the prevailing sentiment in Washington State about readiness to get back together for gatherings. problem is that we have a contract with the convention center, and at least at this point in time, we're not able to walk away from that contract without a big penalty. So,
Stiff penalty, yeah.
we're waiting to see on that one.
Okay, great. Well, yes, everybody, please keep us apprised to how things are moving along in your area. We're gonna, Kelly put in the chat box, if you haven't already registered for the Chapter Leadership Development Workshop and the Tiki Lounge sessions, we encourage you to do so. We're very excited about some of the stuff we have planned. Kelly, are we queued up that you can, you were gonna share some information on that? Oh. One second here. I think what's coming on. Up, here we go.
Welcome to Live from the Tiki Lounge.
Oh, we got stuck. Okay, so that is going to be our intro to our Tiki Lounge topics, which we have various topics, including financials and strategic planning and advocacy and marketing and redefining our programming and engagement. That's showing on the screen now, the various topics that we're going to be having. The Chapter Leadership Development Workshop is actually, I need to correct myself, that's for president-elects and CEDs. If you don't have a president-elect in place or you were unable to attend in the past, we will, you can attend that. The lounge sessions will be open to presidents, president-elects, and CEDs. You can pick and choose which ones you want to come to. We hope you come to them all. The lounge sessions will be an hour in length and will be a great conversation for us to have. In light of those sessions over the next several weeks, I was going to put a hold on having a session like this with you all in hopes that you'll participate in some of these, and then we can kind of touch base again in a few weeks and see if we want to have another one of these. My guess is that yes, this seems to be valuable for all of you. I think it's valuable for us as a staff, and I think it's been great to hear everything. So I'm looking that we'll probably maybe schedule something for mid-July. Yes, no. Trying to see if I can get back to I have Kelly's screen up, so I can't get back to, there we go. Okay. Again, I want to remind you all of the Exchange platform is a great place to ask questions. We haven't seen a lot of conversation there, either from presidents or executive directors. They're two different platforms, but it is a great place to go to have conversations and ask questions of this audience. Also want to offer myself and the rest of the chapter relations staff, if you're struggling with financial planning, reevaluating your strategic plan, just need somebody from outside of your chapter to talk through stuff with you at a high level or into the nitty gritty, we're happy to do that with you. Normally we'd be out in your chapters having some kind of strategic planning or board leadership training, and we can't do that now, but we're still happy to do it via Zoom or via phone as you have some of those tough conversations in the coming months. Right, we're at 3:24. Any final comments, questions, thoughts?
Yeah, Crystal, Ed
Yes.
Here.
Yes.
I wanted to thank Tony for bringing up the issue regarding that he referred to as Black Lives Matter, because we're about communities, and it's like how much tiptoeing we might do because we have to be concerned about policy issues on this. I mean, it's an extremely divisive issue, and we're in a crisis now. So what we do can be very important. And what I wanted to find out is you had made reference to a national policy regarding such matters being discussed, and wondered how far along that is and when we might expect to see that, because I believe that would be very important to our chapter to see that expression of policy and guide us
Yeah, it's not really a policy. It's a statement. It is addressing Black Lives Matters directly. We don't feel that can be ignored at this point, if you will. You know, that it's an important statement to make, but it's not really a policy per se. It's just a statement of support. We are focusing around the community issue. I've seen what I believe is the final draft. They've been emailing me while I've been on this call to look at, you know, to sign off on the final. So I believe it'll be going out soon. But we're focusing on communities, and as you said, we have all types of people in all of our communities, and we want to make sure that everybody is safe and well represented and has, you know, equality across the organization. So that's kind of what the statement focuses on, but it does directly say Black Lives Matter in the statement. Okay. All right. Well, I thank you again for all of your participation. We are just so happy to be able to offer this opportunity for you all to talk, and we appreciate everybody sharing. And we again wish you well. Hope you're safe and stay healthy, and hope you're not going stir crazy being at home. Hopefully we'll all be able to get together in the near future soon, and we'll go ahead and schedule something for mid-July after the educational sessions we already have planned. So thank you again, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.